Hey guys, I got a request here, so I'm gonna give it a go, which is a budget faux pally for Dclone. So this is kind of what you would do early ladder or a kill kind of thing. Some of my gear will be a bit weird just because I'm doing this on live, so I don't really have perfect budget gear, which is kind of a weird thing to say. But it's kind of actually tricky to get that kind of gear. So you'll see what I mean, what I had to do here. So what we're doing is we're using the full grid set. Inside the Griswold, I've done IO runes for the Vitality here, rubies here. This is just a cold res slam, so it's not really doing much here. This one's nice because it has a max life slam, but you'll see that I'm kind of counting for that later with rubies in here, and since some diamonds and IO rune here. My res is much higher than I need, so that's kind of where it's not really mattering that I have some of these slams, which you'll see. Additionally, I do have like a kind of nice, I mean, you can get much better than this much earlier, but the cast rate doesn't really matter. I am hitting 125, which doesn't matter that much. 75 feels fine, but I do have cast rate on these, which is kind of unrealistic. But what I would normally do is I just wouldn't use lava gouts. I would use like mage fist or any other 20 faster cast rate. Um, Gloves, and you could also hit faster cast rate slams like here or other areas. So but I would say just to drop down to 75 is fine, or swap out some stuff here. It's just kind of the gear I had. It won't really make much of a difference, but if it was a problem, I would just go get your 20 faster cast rate here, and you could lose the faster cast rate on these ones, and then you're set in the same spot. Water walks. I am using a +2 max T gods again. Um, this is not something that you would do early, but I'd use a T-Gods for sure if I could. The max res, probably not, but it's not doing anything for me because I would just put those points, an extra points into res fire to bring up my res to 90. Um, and that's kind of how I do that. So what I would probably, the alternative is you can drop this with an Okazon, and then drop the Lava Gouts, or you can go for a max fire res slam on one of these pieces, which is pretty common to get early. All my aura kills usually on the Necromancer and such, Trangs pieces. I always aim for a max fire slam one of these items instead of throwing a Vex in, and that covers your res right there. So that's just some options you can do. That all being said, I've tried to account for that by only putting very little in my inventory. I do have a nice torch because that's what the torch is. I'm using a plain magic large charm. My grand charms are really good. They are lifers here. That's just the ones I have. So what I've done is put no other charms for life to kind of somewhat make up for that. I am putting pots there, so it's kind of weird, but that's kind of what you would do. Is most likely you would do have less life, but then have much more charms, if you know what I mean. You'd push out your charms more, and then that'll help you out on this fight. For skills, obviously, we are maxing Holy Bolt and all the synergies, and Fist of the Heavens, all the synergies, which are the same. So it's Holy Bolt, Holy Light, Fist of the Heavens, Holy Nova. I put 1 point Joust just to reposition in case I get stuck. And then I have a couple points into Res Fire just to get your max res. And then just dumped into Sanctuary. But to be honest, 1 point Sanctuary is probably fine. I don't really think you need to do any dump, because it went from like -10 to -13, which is, I would probably just dump them into here and then change the gear around so you can get more plus skills. We are going to do a Vex level here, just to see what it's like. Again, this is not really perfect or anything. I'm just trying to do it what I think will work on a budget. And then you would obviously get the idea and make some adjustments. So it might not be pretty, might not be clean, but it'll kind of hopefully show us what we want to do here. So we are going to use a CTA and natures. So let's see how this one goes. Let me just make sure I have Sanctuary. I just respec, so I'm not too sure how this actually is going to go, but let's see. So the idea is we're using the magic damage of Fist of the Heavens and Holy Bolt to kill. Because all the bolts that come out do hit Dclone, because his target is really big. So that's kind of why you can get away with this. And then we're just going to kite, casting foe, and Holy Bolt as it comes through. As we line them up here, Holy Bolt's quite nice, and as you're running away to kite, you can kind of shoot out your foe, and then once it gets down to less minions, then you just want to Holy Bolt them down. Don't really want to stand in too much damage. And if he's not near pillars, you might have to use Holy Bolt. Just because you get the more bolts out based on targets. And there's less targets unless he's in the middle, so if he's really far out, he's not going to get hit by very much. So I think I would try to pull him towards the middle if you could. But you do have to stay somewhat close. As you saw, I wasn't doing any damage to him. Benefit over foe for Holy Bolt on him, even if it's sometimes less, is just the targeting's a bit easier to get off. As you'll see there, it's a bit... And I would try to target the archers here, but... it's not really... doesn't matter as long as you just keep getting off your DPS. And you just kind of want to keep the damage up. And when you get options to Holy Bolt, just to kind of clean out the waves. Again, in these fights, you don't want to stay still for too long, otherwise the meteors will attack you, like they'll target on you. As you get higher and higher difficulty, they have better and better aim. And we'll bring him to the middle. If we can, sometimes he doesn't like to. That's where the faster cast rate helps. It's a little bit, I don't really like to stand still when there's lots of archers out and cast Holy Bolt. Unless you can get a nice safe spot like that. Just because you can get kind of bursted down by a lot of physical damage. So if you can just kind of find your windows. But you will clear out a lot faster if you just Holy Bolt down. But you are a bit more stationary. Obviously you're stationary while casting Fist of the Heavens as well, but you can kind of move and kite it a bit. Okay. And always try to get your windows like that if you can. Holy Shield's run out, but I don't need it anymore, so I'm not going to worry about it. See if we can get him a bit further away. See, I much prefer if he comes into the middle so I can get an extra bolt. But you can also try to take him down with Holy Bolt as well, like this. So it's kind of a mix what you want to do, depending on the scenario. You can see I don't, it's not a crazy number left, but I mean it was pretty budget and not the greatest setup here. But that's kind of the idea, so I would make a lot of changes. And like I said, if you change these from lifers and you made them planes and you can just get a few more, mixing in with either magic or combat, depending, and just kind of fill these out. Also, realistically, if you did early, you would have an Annie because you would run this fight level 0, pick up an Annie for 1 skill there, and then I'd run an Okazan, so you have to make up the 2 more skills, add the 2 more planes here, and then you could use your Mage Fists now, and then you're going to be at the same skill level and same faster cast rate as we do here. You can also hit +1 to skills on these. That can help, not necessary. If you don't get 3 sockets on everything, it's also fine. Like the 10 vitality that we're getting per socket is nothing crazy. I mean, it's just a little bit of life we're adding. Since we're not using small charms, you could easily get over 3k with your setup. The more skills, higher level you are, the more points you can get into some of these res stuff to help you out a little bit. I tend to not worry about cold res at all, just because you can dodge that portion of it. PTR on level 1, I'm also not too worried about it. I have 3%. You could do a little bit more if you want, but I tend to not worry about that too much. These are the only water rocks I had that weren't like max fire or something that would be, you know, too crazy for this early. So it looks something like this. There's obviously some better gameplay you can do around it. You can mix up a few things, play it a bit better with casting of your Holy bolt, but it's nothing too crazy. If I drop down a faster cast right here, you can see this is what it looks like at 75, and then at 125. So it's a little, it's better obviously, but it's not gonna, if you drop down to 75 and get a whole bunch more life and plus skills because of that, I would do that. I mean, that just kind of makes sense. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, Grizz is just really good because you're getting the faster cast rate, faster hit recovery, life, all res. Like it's kind of just really good and really cheap. So that's kind of one of the better setups I would say early. Like I said, you can, some of my slams are a little bit too ideal, like here I would say, but again, you can drop this if you want. You don't really need the +2 lightning skills because we're not using foe as much as the magic damage anyway, so that's not too crazy. And you can just spam more of Holy Bolt as opposed to foe. You don't really need to cast foe. You can do this whole fight with just casting Holy Bolt. So it's just whatever playstyle you like. I kind of liked doing the foe, but realistically, if you get good with kiting and just spamming out the Holy Bolts, that'll be a better kill. So yeah, just practice what works for you. Ooh, that's terrible, Annie. That's almost the worst. But yeah, so that's kind of the budget one. I might do this Rathma as well, we'll see. But I think it's kind of clear how it would work in Rathma, but if there's desire for it, I might do it as well. Alright, cheers guys.